The Jets just wrapped up another training camp practice, but Jared and I, or me and Jared, I don't know, he's the beat writer, so I want to make sure I get that right. We ain't talking about practice, we're talking about Sauce Gardner. Spoke to the media today. You've got an article coming out about him on the Post. I guess, what are your takeaways, not only from his media availability, but Sauce going into this new season after securing the bag before training camp?
One thing I was interested in was he spoke a couple of weeks ago and he said, "I'm Sauce Gardner. Everything I do gets blown out of proportion. My missed tackles, my penalties, my good plays, my bad plays. Everything is a big deal." And I was kind of wondering, does he embrace that? Does he like that? Is that something that angers him? And he said that's something that he's learned to embrace this year specifically, that, as a rookie, his first couple years in the league, he would see stuff on Twitter and on social media and analysts talking, and he would get angry and he would say, "Well, I didn't really make a bad play. That was this guy," or they're being too harsh and stuff like that. And now, being a star player in this league, being through it a couple times around, getting a big contract like he did this year, he knows it comes with the territory. And that's something that he's really learned to embrace, something that he's really learned to almost enjoy. And, he says he's the harshest critic, on himself, but that's definitely something he's learned to embrace. And, when you get a contract like he did this offseason, it's something that you have to embrace. And, there's a lot of negative news around the team the last couple of years. He's someone that has learned to accept that negative news and wants to turn it into positive news.
Biggest takeaway, what we learned: stay off of social media, kids at home. But yeah, because I followed up and I asked a question about what he's been working on or what he worked on during the spring that he feels like is paying off now that the pads are on and you're actually out there at practice. He didn't post at all in terms of his social media workouts. And you know how the NFL guys are. It's like, if you don't post it, you didn't even work out. But he's a guy that kind of flew under the radar this spring. One, obviously, where you're waiting for a contract extension, but two, I think he feels disrespected in a way. And then, like, in the sense of he got knocked down in terms of his rankings as being one of the top corners in the NFL. And then two, reading what the people are saying. So it's like he's come in here and he has like a new look at life, or a new look in terms of his career. And when I was asking him, like, all right, what are those things? What's that one thing you were working at? You were working when you're working out. And he was just like, everything from tackling. Like, I've never heard of someone talk about they worked on tackling during their winter or spring workouts. He's talking about catching the ball, which gets a lot of pass breakups, but we would love to see him catch the ball and force turnovers a little bit more. So you can tell, and I even said it, I was like, okay, so you kind of just put all the social media to the side and got back on your grind. And you're seeing it, whether you're here at practice or you hear the reports. He's having himself a really strong camp again, and he's ready for another year to be one of the top corners, if not the top corner in the NFL.
One thing he also didn't post was any pictures of himself playing golf. If you remember last offseason, he got super into golf and he was posting, once a week or multiple times a week of him playing golf. And that rubbed a few fans the wrong way. It was get on the field, get back to work. Especially last year when he had a bit of a, I wouldn't want to call it a rough year, but maybe
say down year,
for someone that of what we expect from him. Those memes on social media came, he spent too much time playing golf. He's worried about his swing and stuff like that. And we definitely saw less of that on social media this year. And like you said, tackling, that is one area of his game that he has gotten some of the most criticism, is tackling. And like you said also, is turning those pass breakups into interceptions. So those are two things he said he really focused on this offseason. And if he can add those to his game, he's elite. I mean, he already is probably elite, but if he can add tackle, becoming a better tackler and turning, recording some more interceptions, man, the sky's the limit for him.
It's almost like having a former corner, a guy that played 15 years in the NFL as your head coach, and then having a guy like Dre Bly as one of your secondary coaches. It's like, this has really been something that's been good on this kid. We never had a problem with him. He's never been arrested, never put anything out on social media that would really damage his brand. But when you have a down year, or people call it a down year, and then you got a lot of noise surrounding your team in New York, you're going to be the talk of the town. Finish this off, Jared.
You talked about that a little bit. We know what he is as a player for the most part. We know he's one of the faces of the team. When you get a big contract like he did, leadership becomes part of the equation. What I'm most looking forward to seeing this season is what kind of leader does he become? What kind of vocal leader does he become? He went from a star player to a face of the franchise. That adds responsibility, and I'm looking forward to see how he handles that responsibility.
Absolutely. Expecting big things from Sauce Gardner this year. Jared Schwartz, Brandon London. Thanks for checking us out.